Adam wasn't born.
You're on, Rabbi.
Okay. Torah Or, Lech, Lecha, Yud Beis. 5 lines from the end of the page on Yud Beis, the last paragraph. Okay, now the Rebbe is discussing that why do you need the level of Milah? Because the Eibishter made the world in a way that you need to elevate the world and bring Alukus into the world. So he explains there's many different levels of Havdalah. There's Havdalah between Kodesh and Kodesh HaKadoshim. There's Havdalah between Kodesh and Chol. And there's Havdalah between Chol, the Shenasa, Taras HaKodesh, Chol HaMoed, that it's not Chol, but it's not Moed, it's in between. And these are all various different levels of Kedusha. Now the purpose is Baruch HaMavdul Ben Kodesh to Chol, to bring down the Hamshach of Elokus, the essence of Elokus, even in the level of Chol and even the level, so therefore what by a Jew fixing the world and by doing a bris milah or taking the beans and cooking them, whatever, they actually elevate the world to a stage of kedusha. And the last thing he says, that's the level of milah mal yudke. Mal means speech, which is a revelation. The concept of milah is to reveal the level of yudke. Okay, that's what he said. And this revelation from above is what's called chashmal. In the Merkava of Yecheskel, not electricity that they in Israel, but Chashmal is the level of Gilui Elokus, which is in the level of a Gilui of Elokus. That's why they call electricity, because it's like lights and revelation. But anyway, so then Shlomo Melech says in Keheles, there's a lot of times. There's Eis Ladaber, Eis Lachshis Ladaber. There's a time to speak, there's a time not to speak. There's a lot of different times. Now, what the Rebbe is saying over here is Chash Mal means there's a time to Mal to be revealing, to speak, to elevate. She'itim Chashis Hainu Shapam B'chinas Helem. Sometimes a Gili of Elokus is in the level of concealment, like it says Siyag Lachach Meshtika. The fence of Chochmah is silence, which silence means you're not talking. If you're not talking, that's a level of concealment. So there are levels of Elokus which are concealed. But v'it and memalalis, there's time to speak, b'chinas diba v'gilui. Okay? So one level of Milah, the Alter Rebbe is explaining, is the level of Mal Yudke, which is the Gilui, revealing the level of Yudke lower down into the world. But now the Alter Rebbe says there's another definition of mal. V'hu yeshei mimuli, mul means opposite me. So milah is sometimes the level of speech, gilui, and sometimes it's the level of mimuli, meaning v'hu yeshei mimuli. Pirish negdi. Davar shenira kilo necha le'enav. Another definition of the word mal is the level that it's mamish opposite me. Opposite me means it's mamish revealed. If it's opposite me, I see it. So it's a revealed level to me. What is this down here by us? In Eksiv. The Eibishter said, let us make a man in our image, in our form. Because Yeshkam came Masachal Ever. In other words, like this. Just like in Elukus, there's revelations of Elokus and concealment of Elokus, right? Alma is Galia, Alma is demon, the hidden worlds, the revealed worlds. Chochmah is the level of Helem, Bina is the level of Gilui, whatever. So he says, therefore down here, which we are created in the image of Hashem, so there's also Helem and Gilui. There's also concealment. And so what's the Indian of Bris Milah? The Eibishter made us with a foreskin that covers that area. He says, Yeshkam ki masach al evet. There's also a cover on that limb, hamashpia, shu b'chinas ram, which is in the level of ram, meaning exalted, concealment. Like we said, before Bris Milah, the Avram Avinu was called Avram. It's a level removed from worlds, a level of concealment. After the Bris Milah, at the time of Bris Milah, he was called Av Haman Goyim, the way he's mashpia on nations, which is again concealment, which is before the Bris Milah. and then revelation after the bris milah. What's the level of bris milah? There is the concealment of the foreskin, and then you cut it off to be megala, to reveal that level of elokus. That through the level of milah becomes a revelation to us and our children, which is also to the level of benenu, which is heiladam, which is the concept of birth. He says, when Avram Avinu was added a hay, the reish, in other words, Hashem didn't take away the reish and make it Avram. It's Avraham. Now reish represents Ram, the level of concealment. So that two levels existed with Avram Avinu. So that this level of Ram should be begilui. Meaning, Al Rebbe says like this. Avram means the level of Chochmah was concealed. Adding the hay, which is hay mitzvah sapeh, which is a concept of speech, is the level of Ram is still there. In other words, that lofty level is still there. But now, it's Avraham, that Ram is in a level of hay, it's revealed. That means that level of Gil Elukus, which is so great that normally it can't be revealed, now becomes revealed.
So Abraham didn't get elevated by changing the name.
He did get elevated because when you're able to take this lofty level and reveal it, that makes you greater. In simple English, a brilliant scholar can talk to little kids. It's just, even a more brilliant scholar is able to take his seichel and lower it to the kids. That's even a greater feat. That he's a brilliant scholar, okay, but you can't reveal it. In order to reveal it, you need to have a greater level of seichel. There's a Yiddish expression, Ebes felt in hasbara, felt in havana, which means in English, if you can't explain it, if it's lacking in explanation, it's lacking in understanding. Because if you would understand it yourself, then you'd be able to explain it. Sometimes a brilliant person, Avram, that level of Ram is too great to be revealed. So it's Avram, it's not Avraham. Avram is he reached a greater level, that level of Elokus, which is normally concealed, he could reveal. And by Avram Avinu doing it, he gives us the care for everybody to do it.
He couldn't do it himself unless he
No.
got the hay from it.
Correct. Hashem gave him that koyach of Milah.
Who was Abraham's
Who?
Who was Abraham's Rebbe?
Who's Avram's Rebbe? The Rebbe, I guess. Who was Adam Rishon's Rebbe?
When we come to Hashem, I have any questions.
Yeah. Hashem was his mashpi, I guess. Okay, Vinay Hamilah Gilui. Milah. Now, there's two parts of Bris Milah. There's what's called Milah and Priya. Okay, Milah is you hold out the foreskin, cut it, and then there's an inner skin. It's called Erda Priya that you have to bend back. So he says, Priya Gilu Yosef Kamei Upara Esreisha Isha by Satan says you uncover her hair. And therefore the Yidden make the level of Chulin. Altar Sakodesh and Kedusha, Shikar Avdollah, Kibeshiva Avdolas. In the 7 separation, Lahavu Ben Atame of Atar, and all the various different Mavdils, Eina and Eimnim. We don't have to say anymore Lahav. In other words, the Rebbe is alluding to the fact like this. In the Havdalah we say, Hamavdil ben Kodesh Lochel, Ben Oil Cheshach, Ben Yisrael Amim, Ben Yemeshvi L'Sheish Miyamaisa. Why don't we say Hamavdil ben Tamei L'Tor? It's never Havdalah. So the Alter Rebbe says, because once you separate that, make a Havdalah between Kodesh and Chol, so automatically it's between Tamei and Tahor. This is even a more refined level. Tamei and Tahor is very open. Now you're being mavdil, being kodesh l'chol, which is a more refined level, which is a much greater level. Okay, that's the end of this Maamar. Let's learn the Maamar that the guys always say at the bris milah. Okay, Yud Gimel, the bottom of the page.
So what did we learn from this man? What is it?
What do we learn from this Maamar? That the Jew has the ability to reveal the levels of godliness which are completely concealed, Avram, and to reveal it into the level even of Chol. In other words, Avram Avinu accomplished by the bris milah was, he took the law, like it's going to say even more in the next Maamar we're going to learn. He took the loftiest levels of Kedusha, which were normally concealed, and he revealed it into Yudke, into Chachma and Bina, which is already the beginning of Ishtalshus, the beginning of world. So that gives us the koyach, by Avram Avinu doing it, he gives us the koyach, that every Jew can take the concealed levels of godliness and reveal them down here.
We also have Kodesh and Kodesh. No?
Yeah,
So there is not only in Kodesh, but also in Kodesh.
that's a deeper Aveda. How do we separate between Kodesh and Kodesh?
Same way as the bracha. There's the bracha.
What's the Aveda of separating between Kodesh and
The
Kodesh?
high level
You mean just wine?
is between good and better.
Like we learned, it's between good and better. Remember we learned already, tzaddikim is no yetzer hara. Correct? So how do they have free choice? They have no desire to do evil. Why should it's free choice? I want to do good or bad, I have a choice, and I do pick good. If they have no yetzer hara, so why in the world how are they picking good? It's a given. So the answer by tzaddikim, it's between good and better. If a tzaddik picks good instead of better, then he sinned on his level. And that's a mavdil ben kodesh l'kodesh. And that's the difference between Shabbos and Yom Tov. Shabbos is a holier day than Yom Tov. Therefore, Shabbos, you're more removed from the world than you are on Yom Tov. Yom Tov, you could cook, you could do, things that you're allowed to do for food. Correct? But Shabbos, you're not allowed to. Which means Shabbos is a higher level of Kedusha because it's more removed from world than Yom Tov is.
And the Yom Tov that falls on Shabbos
Is even greater.
greater.
Because then you have both Milahs. Okay, let's go right. Let's start this mind. Okay, Yud Gimel at the bottom of the second column. The pasuk says at the end of the Pasha, in the middle of this day, Avram Avinu circumcised himself. So that the Rebbe says to understand, the question asked to many Mefarshim, why didn't Avram Avinu The Gemara says, Medrash says, Avram Avinu kept the whole Torah before it was given. That means he kept all the mitzvahs. Why did he wait until he was 199 years old to do a bris milah? If he kept the whole Torah, he should have done it before. When he was 40, whenever he started doing mitzvahs, he should have done it then. Because Avram Afilu Erev Tavshilin, even Erev Tavshilin. Yeah, meaning even rabbinic mitzvahs. So why didn't Avram Avinu do the bris before? Love and Zabet to understand this, quite the answer to the question, why didn't Avram Avinu do a bris? We first need to understand what is the whole concept of a bris milah. It says in the pasuk like this: Loi b'shamayim, Torah is not in heaven. Lecha to say, Milah lanu hashemayim, who's going to go up to the heaven? Like Rashi says, if Torah would be in the heavens, we would have to take a ladder and climb up there. That's what Rashi says. We'd have to climb up to the heavens to get, like the Dara Floga, they built the tower all the way up to heaven. So it says Milah lanu hashemayim. Okay, so it says Loi b'shamayim, Torah is not in heaven. Lecha to say mi yala lanu hashemayim. So mi yala lanu hashemayim is a Rashi Tevis Milah. The last letters of Mi, Yale, Lonu, Hashemayim is Yud Kei Vav Kei. Mi ends with a Yud, Yale ends with a Hey, Lonu is with a Vav, Hashemayim is a Hey. So the first, these 4 words, Mi, Yale, Lonu, Hashemayim, who's going to go up to heaven, is the acronym of it is Milah, and the end letters is the level of Yud Kei Vav Kei. Which means that, now self-understood, if it's the first letters versus the last letters, first letters are greater than the last letters. That means Milah is even greater than Yud Kei Vav Kei. Right? So he says, to understand, Mi Yala Lana Shemaim Rosh Tevis Milah, V'Sefer Tevis Savai. So the Alter Rebbe said we need to understand, L'chaira, how could Milah be even greater than Yud Kei Vav Kei? So he says, the Inyan is like this. Because Tchiluk, say first, the Pasuk says, Umaltem Esarlas Levavchem. First, there's 2 Pasukim. One Pasuk says, Umaltem Esarlas Levavchem. You have to circumcise the orla of your heart, meaning your heart has a blockage, a covering, and you got to remove it. Another pasuk says, "Umal Hashem lekachas levavcha." Hashem will circumcise you. So who's doing the circumcision? Is it coming from above? That Umal Hashem lekachas levavcha, or is it Umal temesarlas levavcha? You have to do it. So which one is it? So he says, Sheyesh beis bechinas Milah. There's 2 levels of clearing the blockage, or removing the blockage. One is the avoid of the Jew from lower to higher. That we have to remove the foreskin, the covering of the heart. Meaning like this, which he says is the level of tshuva. Normally, seichel stimulates midas. Okay, when you meditate about something, it reveals feelings. Sometimes, like we learned, there's what's called timtum alev. It's called in Yiddish, verstopfte hearts. It's a blocked heart. Meaning, there's a blockage coming from the head to the heart. Now sometimes, Siddur explains, you can have what's called timtum amayach. You can have a verstopfte cup. As you try to meditate, and it ain't going anywhere, right? By the way, why is that? Because you have there's a part that says that the heart is something like a stone. When you have a stone and you pour water on it, it doesn't penetrate; it just bounces off. So sometimes you have in the mind, you try to meditate, but it doesn't go in; it just falls off. Okay, same thing with the heart. But what happens if you don't have timtum al-mayach? You understand greatness of Hashem, but it doesn't penetrate the heart. So the answer is, there's timtum alav, there's a blockage. Okay, you have the stone heart. Vasireisi sleva, the pasuk says, Vasireisi sleva even mikir bechem. Hashem says, I'm going to remove the stone heart from you. There's a stone heart, I mean, it doesn't penetrate. So this timtum alav means there's a blockage. So what's the inyan of Milah? Milah is removing that verstopfte heart. Removing the blockage. You remove the blockage, so then you have the heart can absorb. And he says that's the level of tshuva. To be continued.
The question is why